Okay, stay close. Let's go.
How y'all doing?
Are y'all from England?
Australia. Australia. Wish I had an accent.
Dad, I wrote a song. Thought maybe we could ask for an audition.
Oh, that's great, honey. Let's take it one step at a time.
Kay tells me you're a promoter.
You know someone looking for one?
Well, I may know somebody who should be.
She's been given a beautiful voice. It's a miracle.
She's a special one, son. Your family, they're not in the way. They are the way.
There's no food, and we're almost out of money. We need to make some changes. Kids, we need your help. This is everything we have, and sometimes it's going to grow, and sometimes it will shrink, but it cannot be allowed to disappear.
I wonder if he's right. Maybe I'm not meant to sing.
Or maybe you're not meant to sing other people's songs. It's going to be dangerous and scary. And giving up, giving in, it's not an option.
Whatever your dream is, I know you can achieve it.
Please welcome my big sister.
My dream is to be like you. It always has been.
Oh, what an honor and an absolute joy and pleasure to be talking with the first Smallbones.
Well, we've got the unsung hero to my left. So I'm honored that she has been in my life for 52 years. Can you believe that? Half a century.
Man, job well done. We have so much to get into. I want to start here, though, because as a mom myself, I have 3 elementary age kids right now. So that's my journey. But I'd imagine, I told you before we got started, I've been interviewing Joel and Luke for years now. They were one of the first in mainstream media. I would invite them in studio. They were always so gracious. I think Priceless was the first kind of film that I promoted of theirs. I had gone into, when they were here in Tampa, one of the stadiums here, I'd gone there and interviewed them. And they're just one of those bands, one of those brothers. You guys are one of those families that you're so proud. And again, when I say mainstream media, when I would introduce them to non-believers, right, that I was working with, it was such an honor to say, hey, this is a great example of godly men, of what's happening in the faith-based world. And I just wanted to say that. And if it ever gets old, hearing how wonderful your children are and hearing
we were definitely not perfect. I don't think there's any, because each of us are not perfect. There's no perfect family. We're definitely got our stresses and strains like any other normal family. But yeah, they're good men. They love God and they love people. And wherever they go, they're really wanting to encourage the people they're with. And I love their hearts.
And it's been a wonderful adventure for us to do things together as a family with Rebecca. We travel the world with the boys and Rebecca and Rebecca's sister. And we scratch ourselves because the whole experience came out of brokenness. And I think we all experience brokenness at some stage. And what we can say is that broken season was a good season for us because we saw the miraculous, and we recommend that for everybody.
Let's talk about that, because there is a little bit, even when I was watching it, I thought, man, sometimes I get pushback with just asking my 10 and 11-year-old to take out the trash sometimes. It gets a little frustrating with, the daily ins and outs. And I'm watching this film, which is, by the way, I'm going to say it, I think it may be one of my favorites that's come out here recently.
Wow.
I just loved it. But there is a little bit like, man, if I was faced with that, if my kids were faced with that, it makes you question and go, I don't know if they would be that so eager to say, yeah, I'll help mow lawns and I'll help do this. I mean, was it as picture perfect as, the movies sometimes, I guess, for the kids, and how willing they were just to help? And
I think they had grown up. We had a culture of doing things together from when they were born. And I think part of it was selfishness from my part, in the fact that if I took the kids with me, then I didn't miss out. I wasn't hugely into babysitting, leaving kids at home and being sat. So and David was supportive. So we just ended up taking the kids wherever we went. And from the time they were born, we were in a family owned sort of business. So they grew up helping with mail outs, age appropriate. I mean, but helping with mail outs, or putting flyers on cars, or just doing, or on seats in an auditorium, flyers on seats they grew up in that culture. And so I think when everything fell apart, it was already part of our family lifestyle, that we did things together as a family, that we worked together. Maybe not, definitely not to the same degree. I mean, even after we had Libby in 1992, she was born in 91, but in 92, our youngest son Josh, who would have been all of 3 to 4, probably 4, was pushing her around in the stroller when we were working outside. I mean, everybody had a job. I doubt that when in the normal life it wasn't quite that extreme, but everybody had grown up to. I've got a funny way of dealing with kids who aren't willing or who show attitude, and that is I double the work.
I love that.
Oh yeah. Well, she's no nonsense. But I think another thought on this is we were on survival
Yeah.
mode.
And they knew it.
And we told them, I think this is the one thing we did. We told them how dire things were, because most weeks we didn't know if we'd have enough money to put food on the table. We would tell them the problems. We'd tell them about the disappointments. And then we became very much a praying family. And we bonded together in a way, because what happens with a lot of families, they'll send the kids off to school. Helen made a decision to homeschool because she just needed the support of the family. Mm. Then when Rebecca's career started, that allowed us to travel the world. We went to Russia, Romania, all over Europe, Australia. We did this all together, and we learnt to work together. And I think that's one of the things that shows up even with your encouraging comments about the boys. They, growing up, Joel and Luke didn't really like each other. And then I remember Joel was wanting to do a solo career that wasn't working, and I said, why don't you check out your brother? And he didn't really want to do it, but they started to do it, and they started writing songs. And then it took them about 5 or 6 years to get signed. And it was a guy out of the Christian music business in country music, a guy called Mark Bright, who produced Carrie Underwood and started Rascal Flatts. He heard their music and immediately signed. He was CEO of Word Records for a year and a half or so. He signed them. So we've been around the miraculous. The kids have, but I think one comment maybe to parents is we would encourage you to tell the kids exactly what's going on, because I remember Joel when he was 8 praying a fervent prayer, Lord, please put food on the table. Please give us a bed to sleep on, all those type of things. And the kids saw the miraculous. And we think that season has helped us a lot in the parenting process because it was a team effort. We were all in this together.
It definitely changed every one of us, including the children. And they still remember, because it was such a momentous time. They still remember.
Helen, one of the things that I loved that was a powerful moment for me in the movie, and it may not have been that big for anybody else, but there's a moment when you get asked by one of the kids on like what your dream is, or you're kind, and it's like you just say, I just wanted to be a mom and a wife. And you know what's so interesting to me? And because my oldest is a daughter, is an 11-year-old, and I feel like these days, if we encourage our daughters to say that, it's like not a good thing. But I think it's a beautiful thing, that I don't know. I just was so encouraged by that.
I agree with you totally. Oh yeah, yeah. It was my dream to be a wife and a mum. It was my dad who said, yes, I admire that dream, but you never know what life's going to bring, and I would like you to have a career behind you. So I actually trained as an occupational therapist, which I absolutely loved. But my heart was still to be a wife and a mum. And I think the sadness of our culture today is that the hand that rocks the cradle holds the world. Mums are the glue that holds our society together. They're what holds a family together. And it's not totally encouraged. It's like, well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to be a mum. Seriously? I mean, like, it's not totally encouraged. And children aren't deemed by society as a blessing necessarily. You know, there's a statement in the movie that's quite a pivotal statement that says your children aren't in the way, or your family isn't in the way, they are the way. And I think a lot of times when we look at our families in this culture, we look at our kids as more of a problem. Like, well, we've got to provide for you. It's expensive. We've got to get a bit of a car. Like we're running like they seem to be in the way. And I think subtly we're transferring that mentality to our families. But the movie comes back and says, your family is the way. And I think it'd be good for all of us to sit back and think, well, how do I view my children? How am I viewing my family? And do I need just a little bit of an adjustment here? Because we communicate in families and in marriages and relationships so much, not necessarily by words, but by the subtleties of body language, of attitude, of a look. And so if we don't have that positive outlook on our children, on each other, on our family, and if we don't enjoy them, then a lot of that is communicated.
We were only going to have 4 children because Helen came from 4. She was the youngest of 4. I was the oldest of 4. And I've been in the music business, started when I was 16. I've been doing it for 58 years now. And music business, as you know, being in the entertainment business, is very emotional, very up and down. And the kids were therapy for me. And after having 4, I remember going to Helen and I said, hey, baby, this is such a good experience for me. Can we continue to have more? Because it was my responsibility to put the kids down to bed every night. I would pray with them. I would sing songs with them. I remember with Rebecca, I was her in-house therapist. She'd talk, I've had these problems at school. And I was so proud of myself. I would talk her out of our problems. But the kids were in-house therapy for me. And that's one of the reasons we ended up having 7. And really, I reckon I'm known, one of the things I do with my daughter-in-laws, I've got 5 of them, is I wait until they're married, and then I go to them, okay, you've married a Smallbone, you know you're going to have 7. And they go, oh, I didn't sign up for that.
Oh, I love that. And again, I say that all the time. I have 3. I'm like, I would love to have 10, but it's that mentality of, oh my goodness, that's a lot. One of the other things I wanted to chat with you before we run out of time here, because I do think I see the struggle, the value, the give and take of when you have a passion and when you have a dream. For your family, it happened to be music. My family, my son, it's baseball right now. Like he just lives and breathes that. And we see that as an opportunity to bring Christ and to show God's love in that community.
Yeah.
It's such a fine line though. And, you want that healthy tension of, making sure that you're plugged in with the church and doing what you can there, but then using your gifts and your talents and your passions and things outside, of the church as well. But it's a hard life to kind of balance that. Did you find that I'd imagine traveling, then you're not, home with these church people who in the families who helped you tremendously. Like, again, it's a hard line.
I actually think we sometimes had it a bit easier than most because we couldn't necessarily commit to a lot of extracurricular activities. When we were home, the kids would go to church or youth group or whatever, but they couldn't take on many leadership roles or even playing baseball or whatever. They couldn't take on too much because we never, like, our lives were going to be disrupted again. We had to sort of look at our general schedule. So in a way, and we became fairly insular too, traveling together, homeschooling. Like, we spent a lot of time just together, for good or for bad, but so in a way, the pressures weren't quite as much there. I do think as families, we've got to sit back every now and then and just say, all right, have we got our priorities right here? Are we doing too much? Are the pressures of everybody's expectations too much? There was one point when, with the kids, they would have been arranging, it was Transform album when Rebecca put that out. She was probably 21, maybe 22. I'd say. So we would have been that age down to about 10, 8, so ranging in that sort of range. So a lot still at school. And we were going to be touring so much that I was concerned about their schoolwork, because the kids were working long days, all of them.
We toured for a year, 13 months at one stage, straight on.
And so I went to God and I said, listen, God, I don't even know how we're going to do any schoolwork this year. That's a whole year. That's a long time. And I don't know what my expectations even need to be of the kids. They're in primary learning ages. And yet, how do we have any more expectation than just fulfilling the touring schedule? And I really sought him very seriously. And he came back with a promise. And he said, I'll teach them what they need to know. He fulfilled that. He fulfilled that. And so sometimes I think as families, we've got to sit back a little and just say, God, where are you in the mix? What are my priorities here? Because it seems like we're all running in different directions. What's important here? And he will lead us.
And God does work in mysterious ways, because Luke in For King Country, he wanted to be a sports person. And he was a basketball player. He's tall. He was very good at it. But in his first season, when they were playing competitively, he tore, what did he tour?
Tore his ACL.
He tore his ACL, and it was out of that. So I think it's, going back to your question, I think it's a faith question, because if we're in prayer, God will lead us. And Joel and Luke are very different from each other. Who would have thought that they would work so well together? They have a wonderful partnership, but that only happened because he couldn't play sports, because he tore a ligament.
I've also learnt that sometimes, like that instance that David just brought up with Luke, closed doors aren't always bad. Like, sometimes we look at a closed door and we think tragedy, this is overwhelming. Yep. But often if we submit it again to God, it's just a redirection. It's just a guidance to get our attention. And so I've looked at closed doors a lot more different. So it goes back and being like, God, well, what are you really doing here? I thought you were taking me here, but that door's closed. Where are you taking me?
We're very happy for the closed doors, because the closed doors moved us away from a traditional life to the adventurous life. And that's the one thing now with the movie coming out, we look back and say, thank you, Jesus, for pointing us in a better way.
Wow.
Well, again, what an absolute pure joy to see what has happened with your family, how God has used your family. And the best part is it's not even close to being over yet. I think there's still so much more that God is going to do through you guys. So thank you for sharing a little bit of your time, your story with me and our audience. And we're going to be praying that this film touches hearts, touches families, maybe helps people kind of look at their priorities differently and their family, differently as well. And just thank you for the encouragement. Keep doing what y'all are doing. And we're hopefully maybe get some time again in the future. Because again, I know this is not over yet.
Well,
thank you so very much.
Yeah, lovely to be with you.
I want a record deal. So do I.
Yeah, well, boys, get in line.